All right, let's see how we did. What the? Oh man. One of those days. Hey guys, welcome back to Blind Bull Archery. Today's aha moment is brought to you by the idea that not everything in life that we send out comes back to us in exactly the same condition that we sent it. Now, regardless if you've been shooting the same sticks consistently for the last 3 to 6 months, or you just wrapped up a new batch last week, sometimes we get the results of the shaft and the insert parting ways. But hey, that's okay. Today we'll talk about how to bring them back together and get them back out in service. Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. So before we're able to get this insert and the shaft back together, we've got to do a little bit of prep. We got to do some prep on the shaft itself, and we have to do some prep on the insert itself. First thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to make certain that that surface area here is nice and flush. After cutting, sometimes the cut itself isn't exactly perfect. Sometimes there's a little bit of an angle, if you will, and that's where sandpaper comes in. They've got devices out there that allow you to get things nice and flush and sand it, and it's all perfect. But if you're out in the field and you don't have anything, and the only thing you have is like a flat surface of something, you can sit it down and just slowly twist. Try to keep this thing as vertical as possible and just do the best you can. Once you've got that taken care of, then you're looking at cleaning the inside of the shaft with some isopropyl alcohol. Now what this does is prepares the surface for bonding with the glue, and we've taken the knockoff. So during that warming process, especially with like your two-part epoxy mixtures, if you don't take that knock off, then the gases that are off-gassing from the hardening and the curing process are going to end up pushing your insert back out. So it's always good practice, whether you're using the hot glue or the two-part epoxy, just take the knock off and let it off gas and let it take care of what it needs to do. But anyways, so you take the alcohol, you get a Q-tip, you clean out the inside, you make sure that's all nice and neat. You make certain that the surface of your insert's clean and ready to receive, and you let everything dry and give it maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes and make certain everything's ready to go. And that's what we talk about when we're dealing with prepping the surfaces. Now earlier we talked about this idea of whether you've been shooting these arrows for 6 months or whether you just made up a batch last week. When we're dealing with the recent, like the batch last week. So a few days ago, I ended up creating up a batch of arrows. I didn't have the hot glue that I needed, and I just had some vein glue. I figured, it's good enough. It'll sticky and it'll work, right? It didn't. I put 6 arrows into the target, and I came out with 6 shafts. That was probably the most expensive learning curve I've ever had to deal with, but hey, that's what it's all about. You get out there, you try something, you find out what works, what doesn't, and then you move on. But when we're talking about adhesives, there are 2 real basic adhesives that we use for these inserts. Number 1 is hot glue, not ultra hot, but hot enough. You can use this pretty standard, craft glue that my wife had. They've got this low temperature hot glue that you can buy at the stores, and you end up you know, heating up the inserts, and it all works out. And then for your really expensive high-end micro, you know, carbon shafts and stuff, they've got this two-part epoxy stuff. And in the grand scheme of things, we always want to use the best materials with the best quality equipment and put it all together great. But you know, at the end of the day, you use what you have. We have hot glue. The epoxy didn't show up, so we're using hot glue. And you know, let's put it together and test it out. Okay. Surfaces are prepped. We're ready to go. We're going to apply a little bit of this hot goodness all over this insert. We're going to get it in place, get it started. At some point we will find out that the whole process, it gets hot. This is when we heat up our insert. Just a little. And there you go. Nice and tight. We'll give it a sec to cool off, and then we will peel it off, and it'll be good to go. Oh, look at that. Just a little bit of cleanup. And she's ready to go. Ready to let loose. So once we got the hot glue taken care of and I was satisfied with the results there, I really wanted to try this cold flex because it was supposed to be a low temperature glue that you could use to seal the inserts into the shafts. And I figured at the very least we're going to have something that we could deal with out in the field away from all the electricity. The instructions basically said that you just needed to heat up the inserts for 15 seconds and apply the glue to the insert, and that'd be good to go. What I found out was you kind of needed to add more heat, or I repeatedly had to add more heat. And even then it was one of those first contact scenarios. I just wasn't getting the results I was looking for. I'm not certain of what I was expecting, but when you look at the hot glue, it's just amazingly you put it on, it's ready to go, and you ship it out, and it's good to go. But with this cold flex stuff, you had to heat up the glue, you had to heat up the insert, you had to apply it, and as you can see, at some point I repeatedly heat the insert, and then I heat up the glue. And once I did that, then it started sticking pretty decently. But then it started applying so well that I was thinking, well, it's going to be really hard to get this insert in because of just how much tackiness there is. So I ended up reheating the insert again. One last time of heat. And what you don't see is the insertion of the insert into the shaft off camera. But there it is, and we will definitely have to test it out and make certain that it actually works. Nice. Okay, so if you found this video helpful, useful, or even entertaining, head on over to our YouTube channel at Blind Bull Archery. And if you want to get into what it really takes to make a great downhill or uphill shot, check out our video from last week. Well, thanks again, guys. Have a good one.